Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's presentation by College Financial Prep. We're going to be talking about the college timeline. We're going to be learning about college admissions, how to write the essays, and about reducing college costs. So a little bit of an introduction to College Financial Prep. I'm Vicki Vollweiler, the founder of College Financial Prep. And just why College Financial Prep? Why are we here? College Financial Prep was founded first and foremost as a way to help parents save money on the cost of college. We do that through financial aid, scholarships, appeals, student loans. But then it grew. We were serving parents on how to help pay for college, but then we expanded to also serve the students. So we're also going to be talking about college admissions and the essay portion. We believe in flexibility, providing exactly the services that parents need. Tonight, you're going to be meeting our college advisor, Jean Marie, our essay specialist, Rob, and you're going to learn a lot of information. So let's begin with Jean Marie. We're going to be talking about the college list, college applications, and more.
Yes, so welcome everyone. My name is Jean Marie Wilson. I was a counselor for 30 years, and I have been a private college consultant for 10 years. And I've seen that the process over the span of all these years has become so confusing and overwhelming for both the student and their families. And so what I hope to do tonight is provide a timeline for you and a roadmap of sorts to help navigate some of this, the process that you're going to be going through. So I've divided the first slide to before junior year, because junior year is where a lot of this process begins, the actual working on the different aspects of the process. But before junior year, there's a lot of things that students and families can do to get ready. And the most important factor is really keeping the high school curriculum very strong. That is the basis of the college application review. And that's one of the most important factors that college admissions officers look at. They look at the rigor and the strength of the high school curriculum. What are the choices that the student made? Did they take college preparatory courses, particularly in math? That means going at least through Algebra 2, and depending upon the student's level and major, possibly pre-calc or calc. What did they take? Lab sciences. Lab sciences are earth science, biochem, physics, and possibly AP environmental science. Those are stronger choices for students to take in the science area. There are other strong choices as well, so they will look at that. They'll look at how many years of foreign language the student took. They'll look at the level of classes that the student took. Did they try some AP honors or IB classes? Not every student will, and that doesn't mean they can't get into very strong and great colleges. But if they have the ability to try to challenge themselves in these areas, it is recommended, even if they, for example, got a B in an AP class versus an A in a Regents level class or a lower level class. So they will look at that. They'll look at to see if they took any college level classes. And what about their elective choices? So we want students to explore, we want them to try different things, but did they try some challenging courses in their elective choices too? And then if they have a particular area they're majoring in, did they take some courses that aligned with that major? So this is something that they can do pre-junior year, keeping their high school courses very strong, continuing that, of course, through junior year and senior year, taking a strong senior year schedule. But that is something they can do, as well as remaining very active in extracurricular activities. So the transcript is looked at very carefully. Senior year classes are looked at carefully, but also what did the student do outside of the school day? Did they really do nothing and just play video games, hopefully not. They're looking to see some type of consistency and commitment in their extracurricular list. Did they have any leadership activities? Did they have an area that they really have committed to and stayed with? And so that's looked at very carefully. Community service is also very important. So we want students to explore their career areas earlier on. Many students are unsure in this area because they're young, and that's natural. But there are free career interest inventories they can take. Many high schools have a career center they can work with. They can try out some job shadowing opportunities or internships. So we want them to explore a little bit to see what career paths they may be interested in and learn about them and research them. And then certainly if the family goes on vacation before junior year, go and see some campuses in the area, have them walk around and get the feel for a college campus, maybe one that's in a city or near a city versus something that might be more suburban or rural, and see what they like and don't like. So certainly they can start to do things before junior year, but the real work begins junior year through senior year. And junior year is a very busy time for students. They are involved in test prep and test taking. They may be in driver's ed. They may be working and in a lot of activities. But we still want them to work on the college process this year. So taking the SAT and ACT 2 times each this year is important. That being said, if they take the SAT and they don't like it and they are gravitating to the ACT, have them work with that test and prep for that test instead. But if they take both and they feel neutral about either one, have them try each one 2 times in junior year. That way they have a great basis to say, what do I do going forward and where do I stand? Attending college fairs, locally or virtually, is really important. And college visits are key. College visits are so important. I've had two of my daughters gone through the college process, and there have been colleges that they said, oh, we love this college, we're applying here. And then we went to the visit and they stayed on campus for an hour and they're like, let's go. This is not for me. So it's an intuitive process that happens when you actually walk around on that campus and see the students that are there and get a feel for the atmosphere. So that is really, really important. In junior year, you may want to think about asking 2 to 3 teachers for letters of recommendation, because the students are applying early in their senior year. They may be applying to colleges in October and November and or December of senior year, and the teachers may not know them as well as the teachers they have for junior year. So we want to see if there's 2 to 3 teachers in major subject areas that they feel comfortable asking and that they think know them well. And then the teachers and the school counselor will ask them to typically fill out a profile sheet that tells them a little bit about themselves and what they're looking for in a college. And the teacher may have questions about the student in their classroom, what their experience was. So it's important to do a really great job on those profiles and get them to the teachers and the counselors when they request them. And I talked about a strong senior year schedule. Sometimes students, they're working very hard and they're involved in a lot of things. In senior year, they may want to take a step back. And that's not recommended at all. It's recommended that they do continue to challenge themselves academically. That will be looked at carefully. It doesn't mean they can't have a lunch period. They should have a lunch period in senior year if they want one, but not to really take a dramatically weaker program. That would be looked at as a negative. And then check their social media sites. They really need to be looked at carefully, that privacy settings are in place, because colleges, not always, but sometimes sporadically will look at students' social media. They'll Google a student's name and see what comes up. So you want to make sure that that's in place before the application period starts. Okay, so in junior year, what I love students to do, and I think it's so much of an advantage for them, is that in spring of spring of junior year, they get started on a couple of items. So one is to get their colleges of interest together, get that list going. This may or may not be the actual college list. Typically, it'll ebb and flow a bit and it'll morph a little bit as they get closer to the application period, but get a nice college list going. You might have 20 to 30 schools on it for now, but this is a list of colleges of interest. And begin the main college essay. And Rob will speak to this a little bit in a few minutes, but there's one main college essay that doesn't really change that much from year to year. There's generic questions. And if they could get that essay underway and get that completed by the end of junior year, they will be in such a great shape as they're going forward into senior year with all the other things that take place. As well as creating an activity resume, which I'll speak to in a few minutes, but get a resume together with activities from 9th grade and on, and have it done in a nice format and get that ready to give to your recommenders, as well as ready to add to the applications. And so that's the spring of junior year. What I find with juniors is that the junior year is so hectic and so busy, and by the time junior year ends, the kids are ready for a break and they want a couple of weeks, rightfully so, not to talk about college or classes or anything. They want to just relax and enjoy for a while. And then they get started on the college process in the summer. But if they can get these items done before the junior year ends, they're going to be in great shape. And so the summer comes and we want to refine that college list. Typically, students apply to 12 to 14 schools. There are students that apply to less. There are students that apply to 20 or so. There's no right and wrong here. It's what's best for the student, what they choose. The applications turn over approximately August 1st. So that's when they start working on the actual applications. And when they do turn over, they will know what types of supplemental essays that the colleges require, which are essays specific to each college. And that's in addition to the main essay. So what I like to have students do over the summer is create a chart, and this will drive their application process and the work that they have to do. And on this chart, they list the college with the type of admission plan, whether it's early action, rolling, regular, or early decision, with the application deadline, as well as the supplemental essay prompts and word counts. And this chart will be really instrumental for them in deciding what do I need to work on right now to meet these upcoming deadlines. If there's a school with a deadline in January, they know they can put that on the back burner for now and work on the November 1st or November 15th deadlines that are coming up. So that's the junior to senior year. And then here are some factors that are considered important to look at when you're researching schools. And I'll just touch on a few of the more important ones right now. Students need to be aware of their own GPA and their own SAT and ACT scores that are the strongest scores that they have, and compare that to the average profile of the colleges they're targeting. And when they do, they'll be able to determine, is this school a likely for me? Am I expected to get an acceptance letter here? Is it a match? Am I good in a good match setting for this school? Or is it possibly a reach category for me? So knowing their own profile, with the profile of the school. And each school will tell them on the website or other resources what the average freshman profile is. So if a student has a 1300 on the SATs and the average profile at that particular college is 1150 and their GPA is 4.0 and the average profile at that college is 3.5, that's possibly a school in the likely or match category for them. So they could, rightfully so, expect to be admitted there if they're significantly higher than the average student at that college. Maybe they would be getting merit aid there, scholarship money, or maybe they would be offered an honors program spot there. So that's what they want to do, compare their profile to the profile of the college. Now, the top tier schools, the highly competitive schools, that's a little bit of a different situation because students could have the 4.0 or 4.2. That is the average profile. And they could have SAT or ACT scores right in that average profile. But if that college only offers acceptance to 15% of the applicants, that's still going to go in that reach category for them. So we have to look at the percent of applicants admitted. That's another very important factor when placing a college in a category. And so other factors to look at when you're researching colleges are, what are the courses required by the college for admission? What is the setting is very important. There are students that love the city and are city kids and they can navigate the city on their own. And, you know, when you're going to a college in a city setting, the city often becomes your campus. It's not always that you'll have an enclosed campus community like in a suburban or small town setting. So you want to know like what fits the student, what they're going to be happy, what setting they're going to be happy in, and the visits can help you there too. Maybe they want to be near a city but not in a city, so they would look for a suburban setting, or maybe they're happy with a college town nearby. So that's all different factors that make them happy or not. And how far from home are they happy as well? And this is also a family decision. You know, what is the family comfortable with them traveling back and forth and being so far away? So these are factors to consider when you're building that list. Campus diversity, study abroad programs, honors programs, support programs, those are all important factors for certain students. And Vicki will talk a little bit of the financial factors that are of importance. It's really important to have that balanced list. And that's why Vicki and I work great together, because we help students find schools that they would be happy with, but that also meets the family's budgets. So that's a really important factor, as well as the atmosphere on campus. There's different atmospheres. There's artsy campuses. There's campuses where the big game is the important thing to do on the weekends. There's campuses that are more STEM oriented, science, technology, engineering, and math. There are campuses where Greek life is the thing to do. There are more studious, quieter campuses, and one is not right or wrong. It depends what makes the student happy. Because yes, the college major is important and the college classes are important, but their happiness also comes from all these other factors. So those are some things to think about, to look at. And so I referenced this a little bit, and this is just finding the right fit. Having that safety or likely and match category covered, and then any other reach categories, which could be a financial reach or an academic reach that the student and family decides on. And I just wrote down on the bottom here, SUNY, CUNY, and Larachi profiles. So if you Google SUNY profiles or CUNY, which is the city system, or Long Island schools, which is Larachi, you'll be able to get that average student profile that I was talking about for each of the schools in those categories. And those are really helpful profiles that come out every year. So this is a research phase for junior year. During this phase and before, certainly visits are key. There are college representatives that visit the high school often, so you should be signing up for that. There are college fairs that you can attend, and it's really important to show something called demonstrated interest. So demonstrated interest is when a student is showing interest in a particular school, and they do that by visiting, certainly visiting with the representatives that come to the high school, seeing them at a college fair, following them on social media. They actually track whether or not you open the email that they send and the links that they send. And that's a really important factor because I've had students at the high school, a student in particular that applied to Marist College and was a very strong student, much stronger than their average student profile, but she never visited. And when she did not get in, we called up to see why, and sometimes they'll tell you and sometimes they won't. But they said, well, she's an hour and a half away from our school and she never took the time to visit. So we're assuming she's not really interested in coming here. So colleges are a business, just like many other businesses, and they're looking to accept students that have an interest in attending their school. And so demonstrated interest is important to show. And there's a great resource called the Common Data Set. So you can Google any college with Common Data Set, and you'll find out if they look at demonstrated interest, you'll find out what the average student profile is from last year's accepted class. And you'll find out a lot of really important information when you're researching colleges. So I won't go through this, but you can look at the screen and when you choose, but this is just a list of websites and books that you can use for research.
And so everybody knows, we'll send out the recording to everyone, so you'll have this.
Okay, and here are some statistics. Again, I'll just highlight a couple due to the time constraints, but you do want to look at the retention rate. So the retention rate is the percent of students that return after freshman year. The national average is 75%. So if there's a school that I'm looking at and I'm looking at their retention rate and it's 60%, so only 60% of the students return after the freshman year, there's something wrong. It's not, it might be okay for a commuter student, but it may not be the best choice. So we want to see retention rates hopefully in the high 70s, if not 80s or 90s. And typically the more competitive the school, the higher the retention rate. You also want to look at the commuter rate. You can have a fantastic school that you're traveling a couple hours or longer to attend, but on the weekend it clears out, or after classes it gets very quiet and there's only 20% of the kids that live on campus. So your experience will be different at that school. It doesn't mean it's not a good school, but your experience in the campus community may be different. So you want a commuter rate of 50% or up if you can. Graduation rate, again, important. Job placement rate. Class sizes are really important. There are students that will not thrive in a setting of 300 or 400 students with someone up at the podium. So that's really important to look at. Okay, and I just referenced the activity resume. So here are some categories that you can add. And going forward, so remaining organized, proactive. Try not to be a last minute Lucy or Louie. So if you are, we will meet you there and help you. However, if you can start the process earlier than at the last minute in senior year, you will be much less stressed during it, and the outcome may be a little bit different. So ask for support and direction when you need it. Have a discussion early on about college costs and budgets. And the most important thing for parents is to maintain a close connection with your child during this process. Your child is now a young adult, maybe going off to college, maybe going out to work or commuting to college, and you want your relationship to be solid. You want the communication to be open, and you want to maintain acceptance during this process. And there are many times when it feels like these decisions are monumental, and it's not to say they're not important, but there are always other choices and other options if you make a certain decision and it doesn't work out. So keep things in perspective and definitely keep a sense of humor. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean Marie. And as Jean Marie mentioned, college financial prep does help with the entire process from beginning to end. But yeah, if you started yourself and then find that you need assistance along the way, feel free to reach out. And Rob, welcome. Now we're going to hear from Rob about the college essay process.
All right, so hello everyone, and thank you, Jean Marie. Okay, so once you have your college list and you have gone through all the steps that Jean Marie just provided, now it's time for the college essay. And so for this first slide, and actually, I'm sorry, before I begin, this is my 18th year teaching high school English, and I also teach AP English Language and Composition. So just so you have a little bit of background about me. So a lot of people wonder, what exactly is the purpose of the college essay? So Common App questions, they all revolve around the student's character. When the college application questions come out, which usually happens around this time of year, the questions really haven't changed. But the main ingredient that all the questions revolve around is that they're meant to showcase something about the student's character. It's an opportunity to discuss something that is nowhere else on the student's application. And although a lot of people think this is supposed to be the be all and end all, and that this is supposed to be everything, one of the first things that I tell families is that this is actually not supposed to be stressful. It actually should be fun. And the reason why is because students get a chance to be creative, sentimental, honest, and reflective all simultaneously. Basically, what we do is we focus on smaller experiences that are really meant to symbolize something much larger and that are impressive. And another aspect of the essay that a lot of people don't really know about is that there's a 650 word limit. And what that means is that it's roughly 2 pages, double spaced. All right, so these are the college essay questions. The college essay questions really haven't changed over the years. And you'll notice that, like I said before, with each of these questions, although they may seem overwhelming, they all do revolve around something about someone's character. And so here the first one says, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. For an essay like that, that really covers so many bases. And what's nice about these questions is that they're so broad and so open-ended, you really can approach them from a variety of angles. And a tip that I try to tell students is that this is really a chance for students to showcase something in their application that really is nowhere else on their application. And so if they think about their application as basically a 5-piece puzzle, one being their GPA, next being their test scores, next being teacher recommendations, next being extracurricular activities, the college essay really is the 5th piece of that puzzle. And so what I try to encourage students to do is to get them to really present something that's nowhere else on the application. And a question like number 1 absolutely does that. The second question says, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you? And what did you learn from the experience? This is usually a question students will kind of stay away from. And one of the main reasons why is because they don't like that word, that failure that's in the question. And what happens is a lot of kids think that they have to look so perfect on their applications that there can't be any blemishes anywhere on their application. And so when they see a word like this, like a challenge or a setback or a failure, an obstacle that they maybe couldn't overcome easily, students have a hard time putting something like that on paper for other people to basically judge them by. But what I try to encourage kids to do is to look at this as a really nice opportunity to talk about something that's real, number 1. And then number 2, to have a chance to talk about something that you were able to overcome successfully, because that shows success. And then question number 3, this says, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or an idea. What prompted your thinking and what was the outcome? This is another question that students really have a hard time with. In my 18 years of teaching, I've only had 2 students actually submit this one, but both of them were really interesting topics. One student in particular, he actually wanted to talk about a time he challenged his advanced math teacher regarding an answer she had on the board that was incorrect. And when he politely confronted her about it, she basically said that he was wrong. But then the next day, she came in and she apologized to the entire class and to the student because she reflected on it and said that the boy was right. So that was a really unique experience. He wound up going to the University of Maryland. A topic like that, you need to find the right story, and that wound up being a good one. And this was like, the nicest kid, and it was so funny because it wasn't something that was normal for his character. Even a question like that had him break out of his comfort zone, and that actually was a fun essay to write together. Number 4, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? This question is popular too, just like with number 1, because as we all know, we've all had happy moments. We all have been thankful. We've all been surprised. We've been overcome with gratitude. And so this is usually a really popular one with students too. And it allows them to talk about something that's really positive and uplifting. Number 5 is a really fun one. This says, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. So similar to question 1, this question also talks about, yourself, a period of growth, recognition, identity, but it's a little more specific because you get to talk about that one accomplishment or that one event or that one realization that was like the aha moment where you really were able to spark that recognition in yourself and to see things differently. And then there's question number 6. Number 6 is really creative. This says, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn even more? I had a student a few years ago. She wrote about this topic, and her topic was simply her love for walking around New York City. And in her essay, which was full of very vivid imagery and detail, she basically took the reader through the city streets that were her favorite in the West Village. And it was her reflection and meditation and ability to talk about all these observations that she had. And that's what really helped her lose all track of time. It allowed her basically time to freeze for her. And then you have number 7. So number 7 is another weird one that students try to stay away from, but it is really interesting, and it's really for those who are really willing to put themselves out there. This says, share an essay on any topic of your choice. It could be one that you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. Usually with a topic like this one, I'll have students write about something like this if they really can't find anything to write about for questions 1 through 6. And so if a student is really stumped and they really have no idea what to talk about, or we're really struggling, this basically is the, your own choice, basically. And what we do together is we pick a topic, or we pick something that they're really passionate about or that they're really interested in, that's still going to help present something about their character that's interesting to an admissions person. All right, so one of the first things I try to tell people is a list of things to avoid. Often, we always want the best advice. We want as many opinions as possible. And so I start off by telling people what they should avoid. And the first thing I tell people is, please don't research essay topics and models on Google. And that's because there is way too much bad advice out there. Advice that's conflicting, advice that just because it worked for one person does not mean it's going to work for you. And obviously, the more you read and the more you click, the more into a spiral you're going to really fall into, because it just becomes overwhelming and confusing. And so that's one of the first things I try to tell people, is to just kind of trust the process, like with us, because like we basically at this point, we know what works. Another thing people should avoid, and Jean Marie said this before, is basically waiting until senior year starts in September. The window is too tight with deadlines being October 15th, November 1st, November 15th, December 1st, all the way up to basically January 1st. And what happens is, if people wait until senior year to start, at first they may think, okay, it's a new school year, it's my senior year, now let me start thinking about my college essay. I'll probably do it in my English class. But the reality is that the window is too tight, because you're back to school. Students have jobs sometimes at that point. They have after school activities. They have a brand new senior schedule that they're trying to juggle. They have other responsibilities. And so now that beginning of September, between the start of September and November 15th, it's basically like 5 or 6 weeks. Or September to November 1st with the holidays and everything, that's like the end of first quarter. And so waiting until then, I find, is too overwhelming and just too late for kids. Another thing that people should avoid is asking everyone for advice or showing the college essay to as many people as possible. I actually tell them, please don't do that, because too much advice becomes contradicting and confusing for everyone, for students, for parents, for, for me especially, because if you show it to your neighbor who's a teacher and they love it, but then you show it to a relative and they don't think it's good, but then you show a teacher in school and they love it as well, but then you show another family friend and they think you should start over. It's the same essay. Now you have all these different opinions on it. And so what happens with that is that now it becomes annoying, it becomes confrontational, it becomes stressful. And for here, like when I'm working with a student, I try to get them to get rid of all that noise and to just basically trust the process and to know that they're in good hands. The one sentence I tell people, and this is really hard to say every year, but it's the truth, is that we can't guarantee any results, but it is best to just trust the process. We wish that we could guarantee results. That would be a wonderful thing. But what's hard is that we can't. But we do give it, over 100% with every single tutoring session. All right, so a lot of people ask, what does the writing process look like? So when I am working with a student for their college essay, basically what happens is we meet roughly 1 to 2 times per week, and that's all depending on schedules and deadlines. We brainstorm genuine topics together that are specifically catered to each student. And once we brainstorm topics and once we start thinking about a topic that's a good one for them, what we do is we use Google Docs, we share it, and we use that to plan, to draft the college essay, to revise, and then to edit. Most importantly, we try to keep the essay as positive as possible. Depending on the topic and depending on the issues that the student has dealt with, sometimes students want to talk about stuff that's sensitive. And, that's of course okay. But to have an entire essay that revolves around that gets to be pretty dreary, to be honest. And so what I try to do is to help them, try to find some positive moments in these sensitive moments that maybe they want to share. But overall, we do try to keep it as positive as possible because I find that that helps the students present their best selves. Another thing I do is that I review successful essay models from the past that I have worked on with students. A lot of times kids have no idea what this is supposed to look like. A lot of times, like I said, they'll go on Google, they'll find models on there, and they think that that's good writing, or they think that they should do the same thing. When the reality is, if everybody's doing that, now your essay doesn't become unique. And so what I try to show them is past college essay models from students I've worked with, where these students have gotten into college, they've gotten into multiple colleges, maybe not the college of their choice, like their number one, but they were all successful. And the point there is to show them what a polished final draft is supposed to look like. And the last bullet there is, no matter what we decide to do, I try my best to help each student put their best self on paper. So what else does the process look like? During our revising and editing stages, I give very old school personalized feedback with each paragraph. We go line by line, sentence by sentence, word by word, punctuation mark by punctuation mark. And I give feedback basically on everything. Usually for the first read through, I'll read it silently to myself. And as I'm reading through, I'm commenting on the paper. And the student is able to see it on their end in real time. They get to see all my feedback, my constructive criticism, areas that may be a little awkward or wordy or run-ons. And so I find students like that. They don't just want me to read through it and say, yeah, it's good. I find that's like that's actually the worst thing that you can tell someone, especially with a first draft, is yeah, it's good. I try to tell them, listen, this is a good start, but we need to bring this to the next level. And so that's why we revise and edit together in real time. And that's all through Google Docs. All the changes that I do on my end, the student can see on their end, and vice versa. Any changes that they complete, I'm able to see on my end as well. And then once the process is over, we create a polished final draft. And that final draft needs to be something that the student is proud of. I try to tell them, if you saw your paper walking down the street, would you be excited? Would you love this thing? Would you want to show this essay to the world? Are you okay with a stranger reading this? Do you think that stranger is going to be impressed with you? If your essay was sitting on a park bench and a random person picked it up and read it, would they completely fall in love with this? That's the kind of reaction that we want at the end of this. And so that's why I try to tell parents that during sessions, it's always best that I work with the student one-on-one for the majority of the process, because what I like to do is, just go back one more slide. I'm sorry, Vicki. Thank you. What I like to do is I like to do an HGTV style grand reveal at the end of the process. That's when the final draft is going to be ready for your eyes. Just like an HGTV episode where the homeowners want to have their whole house redone and they're gone, and then they come back at the end of the episode and the whole world has changed and they're crying and they're all excited and happy. That's the kind of reaction that I look forward to at the end of a college essay process. And so this is my last slide. I thought I'd put one of my favorite cartoons up here. And my last words that I try to tell people is the following. A stranger is going to read your child's essay, but it's my job to help each child impress each admissions officer with their words. And that quote is from me. That these are all my own original thoughts that I try to instill in everybody.
Thanks, Rob.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try to be respectful of everybody's time. I know we're coming up on 60 minutes, so I am going to try to go super quick. If anyone has any questions, please feel free, for anybody, for me, for Jean Marie, for Rob, feel free to put it in the chat so we can address it in a couple of minutes. Certainly speak out or say anything while we're going through the financial portion. So quickly, what are the college costs to be considered? A lot of people don't think about everything. You have tuition, room and board, all the miscellaneous fees, supplies, computers, books. You have fraternity and sorority costs that are a couple $1,000 a year. You have all the travel expenses, especially all the kids flying around the country now. Tutoring costs, college application fees, the cost to set up the dorm room. They all want spending money, their cell phones, dorm insurance. There's also tuition insurance nowadays. So lots of costs to be mindful of. And why are the finances so important? Because there's a lot of student loan debt that's being taken out by parents. Currently $1.77 trillion in student loan debt in the US. 54% of college attendees are taking out debt, including student loans. And the average amount of student loan debt per borrower is at $37,584. But some people have student loan debt in the hundreds of thousands, when they go on to grad school, and also parents with the Parent Plus loans, they can easily have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So as Ben Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So let's talk about some ways to save a little bit of money. With college financial prep, I like to use what I call the goals system. So saving money all starts with generating that college list. It's not just about finding the right academic fit. It's also about finding the right financial fit. October 1st is, and this year's a crazy year, but in general, October 1st is when the financial aid forms open. So GO in goals, then A is we're analyzing the financial aid awards. That typically happens in the spring. And that's a good time to look for more money, whether it's private scholarship searches, whether it's requesting additional funding from the colleges, whether it's filing appeals. And then lastly, going to secure student loans, which happens typically after high school graduation. So going back to generating a college list, so while Jean Marie is searching for the reach, target, and safety schools, my focus is on financially friendly schools. And Jean Marie and I will work together to figure out what the right financial fit will be for the family. And then Jean Marie will take that strategy and apply it to finding the right academic institutions. So how do we find free money? There's typically merit scholarships and need-based aid. The most free money typically comes from the colleges themselves, and it's awarded for a variety of reasons, not just academics. You can have a student who's the leading French horn player. You can have a child who wants to go to a different geographic region of the country, and that school is looking to entice students from your area. You could have a child who wants to major in a new program that college happens to be offering. So all different types of reasons. And the schools also offer need-based aid. And you have to complete the financial aid applications for those. There is the FAFSA form, which is a free application for federal student aid. Some of the states, New York included, have their own state financial aid forms. There's also this, what's called the CSS profile that's administered by the College Board. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And some of the colleges, definitely the very selective institutions have their own institutional financial aid forms. So need-based aid, the federal aid can consist of any of the following: Pell Grants, work study, subsidized loans. The FAFSA looks at both the students and the parents' income and assets. They'll also look at, how many people in your household, the age of the parents, so a bunch of different factors. Everybody should realize, this just came up earlier today. I was actually on a call with a whole bunch of financial people that weren't aware of this. The students can only take out a set amount of money. Freshmen are only entitled to take out $5,500 in student loans, sophomores up to $6,500 in student loans, juniors and seniors up to $7,500 each year. If the school costs more than that, the parents are typically on the hook for the rest. So if families are looking at $80,000 a year schools, know that the student can't take out the loans for that. It's going to fall on the parents. So here, the parents can either take out parent plus loans. It is possible for the student to take out private student loans, but then the parents are going to have to be co-signers. So either way, the parents are going to need to help out. People always ask, can the child be considered independent for the financial aid forms? Usually not. There are very, very strict rules on that. Either the student has to be above the age of 24, or there has to be something, let's hope that our children don't qualify to become independent. So there are a few reasons why everyone should submit financial aid applications. Even if you think your household earns too much money, even if you think you're not going to get aid, there are still reasons. Not all of the schools, but some of the schools want the forms on file before they offer merit scholarship money. Also you have to fill them out for need-based aid, but also if you want that $5,500 in student loans, the application is the FAFSA form. And that it doesn't matter if you earn millions of dollars, your child will still qualify. Also, if you want to apply for work study, you fill out FAFSA. And then the last one, I call it like an insurance product. So if there's a downward change in your financial circumstances, if somebody loses a job, somebody, heaven forbid, gets hit by a bus, a parent, maybe there's a divorce, if something happens, it's possible to go back to the school if you have FAFSA on file, ask them to re-review your situation And then it's possible to save money. Like I just had a client that saved an additional $10,000 per semester because they had this change in financial circumstance. A lot of people hear about, student aid index, which is derived when you complete the FAFSA. People are always very confused about it. So I'm going to give you a couple of quick examples with two schools, School A and School B. School A meets 100% of need. School B only meets 50% of need. It comes up on the FAFSA that the family can only afford $10,000 per year. Both schools cost $70,000. You do 70,000 minus the 10,000, so they have $60,000 in need. School A meets 100% of need, so they're only going to charge the student $10,000. But because School B only meets 50% of need, they're going to take the 60,000, divide it in half, it's 30,000, and now tell the student that they need to pay 10,000 plus the remaining 30,000, and it's $40,000. So, it's important to project costs before you even send in the applications to the colleges to have an idea of what each is going to cost your specific household. Work study I mentioned is through the FAFSA. The kids work on campus, they receive a paycheck. They could put it, they could just use it as spending money. It doesn't have to be put towards tuition. And a lot of people say, oh, my kid should focus just on their studies. But I think it's great for the kids. They get time management skills. Why isn't this changing? They get work experience for the resume. And honestly, they get to do homework when it's quiet there. So I briefly mentioned CSS Profile. That is a financial aid application that's administered by the CSS Profile. Typically, it's for mostly private schools. There are a few publics, University of Michigan, University of Virginia, UNC Chapel Hill, but it's mostly like the brand name schools. And they dive much deeper. They want a lot more financial information than the FAFSA does. It's a more holistic view of the household's finances. The major differences that they look for here is the value of your home and retirement accounts, and FAFSA doesn't look at those. So I'll say, like weight loss, these results aren't typical, but I've had some clients literally saved hundreds of thousands of dollars each. They applied to the right colleges for their situation. Of course, the child had to be accepted at those schools, and they had to choose to attend there. But yeah, it's possible to save big money. So success stories, I can't stress this enough. Plan early. Plan super early. The failure, I literally had somebody call me. They were in their car driving to the school. They said the bill was due the next day, and what could I do to help them? At that point, nothing. Seriously, plan early, 11th and, certainly before 12th grade. It's definitely the time to get the process rolling. Okay, so that was my quick overview, and I want to thank you all for joining us. I hope you learned a lot tonight about the college admissions process, the essay process, and a little overview of financial aid. I see that there is a question. Oh, thank you. Oh, lots of thank yous. Okay. If anyone has any questions, just let us know, or certainly feel free to reach out to us. You can always send an email to hello@collegefinancialprep.com. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight.